Hey everyone, I recently uploaded a video which was an introduction to Ticket to Ride, where I take you through the basic game mechanics, the scoring system, the cards that are available to draw, whether that's destination cards, whether it's train cards, the pieces, a little bit of strategy, the aim of the game, so on and so forth. So if you're completely new to Ticket to Ride as a board game, or as a sort of a computer or Xbox game, I'd recommend watching that video first, and I'll put some links in the description to that. However, if you are familiar with Ticket to Ride, perhaps you've played one of the board games, perhaps you've played one of the games online digitally, and this guide will just talk you through some of the different maps and the variations between them. So I'm going to make this a three-part series. This will be part one covering the USA region, and in part two we'll cover Europe, and then in a shorter part three we'll cover the Asian parts of the map. So again, you can see we've got kind of over here USA, over here Europe, over here Asia, and we can open each of them up. You can see there's various maps. There's a lot for Europe, and again some for the USA as well. The maps here, as in its digital form, they're the same as the maps that you buy physically. So if you're planning on buying the physical game and not playing it as a sort of an online digital game, this still might be kind of useful, because you'll be able to see what the pieces look like, what the map looks like, and as I said, I'll describe some of the variants, some of the different rules that you'll get. The maps that I've got, it's the entire collection available at present, and the pack that I bought that covers these maps was called the First Class Expansion Pack. So it gave me all of the expansion maps in one bundle, and that's why it's going to be fairly easy for me to make this video going through each map, because I've got all of the maps and I've played all of the maps. So as I said, we'll start off with the USA, and you can actually see, so that's what the box looks like. The map down here, it's in landscape mode. It's the original map, should be familiar to probably quite a few people, and we'll go into that map in just a second. The one thing to say is there's a classic, there's a 1910 expansion pack which covers three game variants, what they call the classic 1910 game, the Mega, and the Big Cities variant. In physical form, if you're buying the board games, this is an expansion pack. It's one single expansion pack. You don't get a new board, you have to have the original board from the original USA game, but you do get a whole new set of train cards and a whole new set of destination cards. So in the new versions, the 1910 versions, you get an additional 35 destination cards, making a total of 69. In the original, obviously, it's 34 destination cards that are available. In the original game, you draw three destination cards to begin with, and you keep two of them, at least two of them. You can keep three if you want. If you later in the game draw destination cards, you draw three and you keep at least one of them. That's in the original game. In the 1910 expansion, there are different variants as to what cards you draw. I think in the classic one you still draw three cards to begin with. In the Big Cities it's 4. In the Mega one you draw 5 cards, and you have to keep at least 3 to begin with. In fact, if we have a look at the original map and the original train cards and destination cards, we can kind of see what the base pack looks like. So we'll start off as if we're playing this game. So here we go. So we've got some fairly sort of well, they're not kind of black and white, they're kind of just monotone really cards, not very colourful as the destinations. over on the right we've got the train tickets, and you'll see in the 1910 expansion these are slightly updated visually. We start with 45 train pieces. Again, this is part of the standard game mechanics, and that follows through to the 1910 expansion. So I won't dwell on this map too much. Again, if you're unfamiliar with the game, have a look at my previous video. We'll go back and we'll look to see how that's different to the 1910 variant. Okay, so, well, first of all, actually, before I play that, for the digital version, it actually gives you the map, but with a little kind of green 1910 down there to show that you're playing the classic game if you choose to play that variant. If we do the mega game, you can see you get the orange, and big cities you get the blue. So again, the classic one, let's go into that. We'll take a quick look. Again, as I mentioned, so the destination cards, they're really colourful. You get 3 to start with, have to keep 2. It's the same as the original game in terms of that mechanic. It's just that the cards are a little bit prettier. They're slightly different cards, and the same with the locomotive cards and train cards. They've just had a slight makeover. Actually, so there is one rule difference actually. Let me just go back to the maps. So the classic expansion brings a new Globetrotter bonus, which is at the end of the game, the person with the most number of completed tickets receives a 15-point bonus. Now, in the original game, you used to have a 10-point bonus at the end for the longest piece of contiguous track. So in the classic variant of the 1910 expansion, it's basically swapped in for this Globetrotter bonus. So it doesn't matter how long a contiguous piece of track you've got, it's not going to make any difference. What will make a difference is if you've got 5 tickets and your opponent's got 3 complete, for example, and plus the bonus is 15 rather than 10. If we look at the Mega Game variant, the Mega Game variant uses all 69 cards. As I said, the expansion pack gives you 35 additional cards, so you get all 69 cards are in play. To begin with, everyone's dealt 5 cards, and they have to keep at least 3. Obviously you can keep 4 or 5 if you choose to. And when you draw new tickets, it's going to give you 4 tickets, of which you have to keep at least 1. So that's obviously a difference there. Because of the higher volume of routes that are available, it's actually possible to really score big. So in the digital version, there's a couple of challenges, and one of the challenges, in fact, if I show you the challenges I've complete, it's called Pressure Gauge 400. Score 400 plus in the Mega variant of the game. Now I'll go through some of these challenges in yet another video, but this is just to demonstrate that the Mega variant, it is just a really big game in terms of the number of destination tickets available. You still have the same number of trains, which is 45. You just get a lot more flexibility around the tickets, and as I said, you get this Globetrotter bonus. In fact, that's the other thing, the Mega version, not only do you get the Globetrotter bonus, but they bring back in the longest route bonus as well. So potentially at the end of the game, if you've got the longest route and the most number of punch tickets, that will give you an additional 25 bonus points at the end of the game. So it's really big. The Big Cities version, now if we have a look at that one, we'll go into the map, and there are far fewer cards. You only get 35 cards in the Big City version. You start off with 4 cards, you have to keep 2, and subsequently if you draw more tickets, you'll be offered 4 tickets, and again you have to keep one. It might be 3 and 1, but anyway, the difference here is that every ticket will, every destination will go through what they call one of the major cities. So we've got 7. So we've got New York, Chicago, Miami, Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Seattle. And all the destination tickets will go through at least one of those big cities. So that's the sort of main difference there. It can be quite a snappy, quick game, and again, just like the classic 1910 version, the longest contiguous piece of track at the end is kind of dropped as a bonus as well. So the only bonus you can get at the end is the Globetrotter one, the most tickets punched. So that covers the main USA map and obviously its variants. And in the USA region, there's one more map, which is Pennsylvania. Now Pennsylvania is quite different. There's some interesting game mechanics that have been brought into play. One of which was actually taken from the European maps. So the European maps brought in a couple of variants, which, as I said, I'll go into in another video, which are things like ferries and tunnels. In the Pennsylvania map, you also get ferries. So we'll have a look at the map, and we'll see how it's different. Okay, so the first thing is, again, we've got 5 tickets. We need to choose at least 3. In fact, we'll do that just to kind of clear that. The tickets, again, it's although you get a new board if you buy it physically, you still need to have the original or a set of train tickets. Obviously you get new destination tickets, but you need to have your original train tickets and your train tokens as well if you're buying it physically. It is just an expansion map. But one of the things that you'll notice that's a bit different, if I zoom in a little bit, ignore those kind of little bits of logos there, we're just going to focus on these locomotive trains here. So again, borrowed from the European variant that came out. This uses ferries, so to cross a body of water you need to place one or more locomotives. You can see if we go from Ontario to Buffalo here, we only need one locomotive. If we go Ontario to Erie here, we're going to need 2 locomotives, and then another card can be any colour we want. Obviously it's a grey route, so that's kind of a different thing. But the main thing that's different is, as you can see, there's a lot of logos here. We've got Erie there, we've got, it says P-R&R, which is the Pennsylvania Railroad. We've got B&O, which I think is Boston, is the B. Might be Boston and Oregon, maybe, I don't know. But one of the things that we've got here is a variant where we've got stocks and shares. It's a really interesting game mechanic. So every time you play a route, potentially you can get some stocks and shares. So we can see here, Altoona to Lewistown, there aren't any logos. So if we get that piece of track there, we're not going to get any kind of any stocks and share availability there. But let me just pick a train. I'll pick a green one, and I don't know, let's just anything at random. So let me zoom into the map. I can see at the bottom we can go between Cumberland and Chambersburg, and I can place my green trains there, and you can see there's two logos. So in fact, before I go to that, down on the bottom right we can actually click and see all of the logos and the stocks and shares. And one of the other things we can do, if I zoom out, we can hover over each one and we can see where you can actually obtain those stocks and shares. So at the top of each ticket, you can see this one here, BR&P. It shows one out of 2. So basically there are 2 shares. The next one, there are 3 shares. The next one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so on and so forth. So if I were to get a share in, well, it could be any of these bits. If I move the mouse, the highlight goes. But if I were to get one of the shares in the BR and P railroad or company, there'll be one left in the pot, and obviously someone else can get the second one. If you've got the most number of most number of stocks and shares in a company, you're in position 1, so you'll get the number of points shown. So for the central one there, we get 10 points if we happen at the end of the game to have the most stocks and shares. So this isn't a number of stocks and shares that you have, it's the position on a leaderboard, if you like. So there are 5 shares. If I were to buy 3 and another player were to buy 2, I would be by definition in first. I would get 10 bonus points, the other person would get 6. Obviously if they had no shares, they'd get none. So you get bonuses at the end of the game for the number of stocks and shares that you've got, and your kind of position in the pecking order, so to speak. There's no draws, so if let's say there's 5 shares there, let's say all 5 shares don't sell by the end of the game, or get picked up I should say. If I've got 2 and my opponent has got 2 as well, and there's only 4 shares in use, if I picked my share up first, so if I laid a piece of track early in the game and picked up one of these central ones, it's deemed that I'm an earlier investor, and therefore by definition I'm in sort of pole position, I'm number 1, so I would get the 10 points, my opponent would get the 6 points. If you're playing in a 2-player game, there's another another game mechanic, which is a dummy player. So I'll show you that now. I'll actually place a piece of track here. Okay, I obviously dropped it but didn't take my share, so let's see. Let's go back out of here. Maybe I didn't. A bit of a confusing message. Anyway, I'll drop this green track here. You can see it's showing me what's available as well. 4 shares for WM, 15 shares available for P, R and R. So if I drop that there, I can then choose between either of these. So I can have a look and I can say, well, you know, I get 30 points if I've got the most of these, but there are 15, so there's ample opportunity to pick them up. There's not so many opportunities to pick these ones up. Perhaps I'll pick up this one. So you can see my little kind of logo picture of my player down the bottom there, Marg over there, my opponent. But there's a dummy player. That's one of the new mechanics, so, or additional mechanics. So if I was to buy, or to pick this this share, so I've selected it, I'll say I'm done with that. That goes into my little pot. See it down here. But there's a dummy player that pops up. And so it kind of makes it more interesting, because in a 2-player game, by definition, if there wasn't a dummy player and you all happen to have the same types of shares, it's quite often, you know, you're going to be first, the other player's going to be second, and you can see, you know, there's a difference of 9 points for being first with that set of shares versus 5 for second. So okay, you know, it's a 4-point difference. But if we look at the Pennsylvania Railway, the PR&R logo, if I was first, I'd get 30 points. Now bearing in mind, I'm only playing against Marg, so it doesn't matter what the dummy player scores as such. But if they happen to have the second most number of shares at the end of the game and are in second position, it means that Marg would only pick up 14 points if she happened to have the third amount of shares. Obviously she'd pick up none if she had none, and that means that me being in pole position could get 30, my opponent would get 14. That's quite a significant difference between the 2 points. So that's how that kind of mechanic works. So oops, I've just given the dummy player one of those shares as well. But yeah, it's a standard Ticket to Ride game with the variant that, as I said, you've got these kind of ferry places in certain locations where you have to lay locomotives to go over a body of water. and this new kind of stock mechanic as well, where as you lay track, not only are you looking to get the sort of the most number of tickets, which is again borrowed from the USA 1912 variant, which is the Globetrotter bonus at the end. So you'll get a bonus of 15 points for having the most punch tickets, but you can also find that at the end of the game you've got perhaps the fewest number of tickets punched. You might have laid the fewest number of trains. You might have the least number of points going into the end game scoring, and yet you can still win if you've been strategic on the stocks and the shares that you pick up. It's all still to play for, so it's a really interesting game mechanic. So there we go. So that is the maps and variants for the USA. Let's just have a quick look there. So that covers the original map, the 3 variants from the 1910 expansion, and obviously Pennsylvania. So hopefully you'll join me next time to look at the maps of Europe. Again, we've got Europe and an expansion similar to the USA, and then a series of additional maps for different European countries. So until next time, thanks for watching.